Hi, Stefan the BMW DIY guy here. Today we're going to be doing a cold air intake install into my BMW F32. This is a very simple project in the big scheme of things, a few basic tools in about half an hour and you'll be done, and can make a pretty significant difference in your car. Not only can you have the advantages of washable air filters and those sort of things as you go through yearly maintenance on your car, but you can also look at some performance changes as well. I know in this case that CTS has a few design differences that I haven't seen before in cold air intakes. So I'm really excited to get this into the car. I've partnered with Mike of Extreme Powerhouse, which is a fantastic company to work with, and I strongly recommend you work with them. If you have any questions, always reach out to them and look at what they have applicable for your car. All right, let's go out to the garage and let's get this install going. So first things first, we're going to want to take your existing intake out. Yours will look similar to this if you're running stock. Really simple to take out. You've got a hose clamp at this end which will loosen. You've got this little rubber grommet here that just lifts up. You've got your clips on the air box as well, and you've got your MAF sensor. So your MAF sensor comes off by depressing the little tab and walking it backwards. So you can see mine came off really easily. Sometimes they're a little stiff, so you just press on that and it'll come back. Your clips are really easy to just pull off. Just pry them backwards. Now, do pull these off gently, because if you push too hard on them, they'll push out of the bottom of the airbox and they'll drop down into your belly pan, which is kind of a pain. So as you can see, I've got all of those off, got this off. Now all I need to do is just loosen the hose clamp at this end and the whole assembly will come off and we'll get the factory piece out of the way. So all super simple, as you can see. I've got the lid off. You can see my existing OEM filter. So we'll get all of these pieces out. All in all, this is a really easy install and a quick upgrade for you to do in your car, and can make a fairly significant difference. So let's walk through getting the rest of the pieces removed. So I removed the airbox. So this lower section of the airbox is simply just held in by rubber grommets. All I did was just pick that out. It just pulls straight out of these rubber grommets. Now, you've got the new tube here from CTS Turbo. You're going to take the rubber grommet off the front, off the tube of your factory one, and snap it into this hole here. So you'll use the supplied grommet. The other thing that I wanted to mention as well, now my car doesn't have a breather tube. You can see it had the port for it on my intake, but it didn't have the breather tube. So if you had the breather tube, you would unhook that as well. So I just want to mention that. So if you look at yours and you go, well, mine looks a little bit different. Okay, so we've got the intake tube here. So I'm going to slide this down into the opening and put it in place, but I'm not going to tighten it down right now. So actually I'm going to loosen this hose clamp a little bit because it's still a little bit tight. But we'll get this all set in there nice and firmly here, and you can see there's a little bit of a lip, so it comes right around that nice and firm. Now, don't tighten it down yet, because now we're going to fit the rest of the pieces on, and that lower heat shield needs to get put into place, and you have to assemble it, so I'll show that next. So I've assembled the heat shield, which I'll show here in a second. The other thing we're going to do is have to pull this cover off. So this is a T20 Torx. Just back this off so we can get to the bolt that's underneath it. Again, try really hard not to drop any bolts. I'm going to keep the bolt inside this cover so I don't drop it. What we're going to get to is this little 8mm nut right here. So I will grab the heat shield and I'll show what it looks like and how it fits in here, and I'll back that 8mm bolt, out. So I've assembled the heat shield, removed the factory lower sections, and I've put the heat shield together. It comes in two pieces, the little bolts here. Now notice that there's a flange on the outside of this piece. That flange goes underneath. So if you try to put it on top, you're going to think this doesn't fit right, but it actually goes underneath and then the bolts go through. So I've removed this 8mm bolt right here, and you can see this lower factory grommet down here. I've also put on the grommet post here with the supplied bolt, and it's all nice and tight. So then all I have to do is simply walk this down and make sure that that goes into that rubber grommet there, and we've got our bolt back here, and I've got my 8mm bolt that I'm going to put in, and the front shield will actually attach to a hole that's right here in the front. But I'm going to get this attached, and then we'll put the front bolt in. But all in all, we're almost done. So the factory lower air duct is going to stay in place, and as you push this into place, you can see there's actually a hole in the frame right here where this big metal frame piece comes around. It's a little hard to show, but you can see. So you're going to want to take the bolt and feed it through, and I've got a nut in the other hand And I'm really carefully, not dropping it, slide this nut up into place until I can screw the bolt onto it just like that. So now that nut's in place, the bolt's in place, and we'll just tighten this down, and then it'll be secure here, and then we'll fit the rest on. We're going to put the MAF assembly, or the MAF sensor, into this new assembly next. I'll be the first one to say that you shouldn't transfer small parts over the top of your engine. So I've got these parts sitting here for example, just so you can see them. I would recommend transferring the MAF on your workbench or someplace a little safer than sitting right here. But what you do is you take out the two T20 Torx and transfer your MAF sensor into this new assembly. Now it's fitted to only go in one direction, so you make sure you get it in the correct alignment. Now the other thing that you really want to stress is this is a really delicate piece of hardware. So if you take this out, it'll come out, the whole assembly will come out, and it sticks down into here quite a bit. Pull it out really carefully and transfer it very, very carefully. You wouldn't want something simple and easy like this to end up costing you more than it should as you break your MAF. So be really careful taking that out. And again, do this someplace safe, like away and not over the top of your motor. So the assembly is in, the MAF sensor's in. What I've done is I've put my silicone connector and my rubber connector here against our MAF assembly. You can tell the orientation. The MAF is here with the breather hose here. Again, I don't have the breather hose. You might. If you don't have it, leave the cap on. So the hose clamps are still loose. I've put the larger, it's smaller on one side and larger on the other. The larger goes onto the MAF assembly, and then we just walk it onto the pipe. Now, this adjustment is going to take a little bit of doing to get everything just adjusted quite right. There's also a little U-shaped bracket. So what you'll do is you'll take one of the 10 millimeter bolts and 10 millimeter nut, put that into place here in the heat shield frame, and slide this little U-shaped or Y-shaped holder into place. And you can see it's sitting on it right here. Now, they stress how important this alignment is. So CTS stresses this alignment. So this is where you're going to make adjustments. It's still loose here, it's still loose here. You can move all these pieces, and I've got my little Y-shaped little brace right here that you can move around and adjust to get into all in the right place and all the right height. So everything, it's not rubbing against anything, it's not rubbing against the heat shield, and all of this is nice and straight. So definitely take your time at this stage. It might take a little bit of extra time. Make sure also that your hose clamps are aligned in a place where you can get to them really easily. But take your time in this and make sure it's lined up really, really well. We'll install the air filter next, but all of this needs to be in the right place and the right height. This bracket is what really matters. So get your height set up and then tighten this bracket down to get it all set up correctly. So something I did want to show here, and hopefully you can see pretty clearly. I've installed a fair number of these kind of barrel type filters in different models and different cars. This is the only one that I've seen this structure on the inside, and obviously they're trying to shape how the air is coming through this filter. And that's actually pretty cool because obviously it's going to fit into this assembly here, and this piece is going to shape that air quite a bit. Every barrel filter I've seen on multiple cars and in multiple designs and manufacturers don't have this piece here. So this may be really a distinct advantage or product differential for CTS Turbo in comparison to all the others. So I'm going to install the air filter next. Everything is all positioned and in the right place, so it should be good to go. Now, it also says that when this goes on, we're also going to make sure that this clamp, because you've got your bracket that this is all sitting on, that this fits in nice and neatly, and this clamp is here as well. So the clamp is there, and then that little Y-shaped bracket that it's sitting on is all held together nice and tightly. Now you can see there's a little bit of fitment here where you want to make sure that it's all in the right place, it's not rubbing, it's not touching. So just make sure that your fitment is straight before you tighten everything down. So I'm going to get the air filter on, make sure it's all in a good place, then we're going to walk through connecting the MAF and make sure that everything is all set up properly. So the filter's on. One thing I want to point out is that when you fit the filter on, you put the filter onto the assembly, and it's then resting on that Y-shaped bracket or U-shaped bracket that comes up. The hose clamp goes around the air filter and onto the bracket itself. So it's also going around that bracket. So that way the whole assembly won't bounce. It's actually strapped down to that brace. Now I've tightened this lower connection here for that brace. I've tightened all of my connections all the way down, including the factory one. Now note with the factory one at this end, The hose clamp actually is keyed in slightly to the original OEM piping. So just make sure it's straight. Make sure that all of your hose clamps are in a good place where you can reach them. Reinstall your mouth. Make sure you got a good click, that it's on nice and solid. And as you can see, the whole thing is on nice and tight. All right, so with that, we're done. Now what you want to do, get in your car, fire it up, let it warm up, make sure that you don't have any error codes, any issues, and you're good to go. Back from a successful test drive around the block, at least initially there's a significant difference in my car. Sound. So the airbox design, if you have the OEM airbox, it's sealed, and so it's going to keep a lot of that intake sound on the inside. This is an open design, so you're definitely going to hear a lot more noise on your intake. And you get above about 2,000 RPM, and there's a very distinct whoosh sound. Now, that canister air filter is really interesting too, and hopefully you saw it you could see it clearly on the video earlier. There's a plastic fin design on the inside of that air filter. Now, when I look at it, logically to me, it just makes sense that it helps guide the air straight down into the intake instead of potentially spiraling or swirling on the inside of that filter. The other thing it does, I suspect, is that it also affects how it sounds. Because there's definitely that intake whoosh, but there's a little bit of a buzz or a whistle almost. It's really kind of interesting, actually, and I'm going to be really excited to see what it's like in my car over the next weeks and months as I drive it. Thank you to CTS Turbo for making a really cool product. It was easy and simple to install, and I think will make a significant difference in your car. Thank you to Mike of Extreme Powerhouse, always fantastic to partner with, and always someone you should treat as a reliable resource. If you liked what you've seen, please click subscribe below. I try to answer any questions that you get. Like the video, please subscribe. Post, and I always try to reply as quickly as I can, and I'll address any questions or concerns. I look forward to seeing you on my next video.